We are honored on this first day of Women's History Month to be joined again by Crystal Robinson, who hails to us from Atoka, Oklahoma. She was a three-time NAIA first-team All-American at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, where she scored over 3,000, not 2,000, 3,000 points in her collegiate career and nearly averaged a triple-double in college. She averaged 26 points, 10 boards, and 6 assists per game. And she did this all the while guarding the other team's best player. She once scored 60 points in a game against rival East Central, and she had nearly a 3-to-1, listen to me point guards, a 3-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. She hit one of the more amazing shots ever in college basketball history in the 1995 national semifinal game against Lipscomb of Tennessee, banking in a game-winning three-point buzzer beater while she was parallel to the floor and draped by 3 defenders. Her mom, Nancy Washington, was a JUCO All-American, and her dad, Billy Robinson, played at K-State. That's Kansas State University. She's a huge advocate of empowering women of the black and brown community and helping them gain financial freedom and the importance of having a good credit score when it comes to systemic racism. She's involved with fighting against sex trafficking, and you can call the sex trafficking hotline at 888-373-7888. She's a legend in her home state and has been labeled the best women's basketball player to ever come out of the state of Oklahoma. And as she will talk about, in the middle of our first interview, she was arrested and racially profiled and spent a night in jail for something that she was later not even charged with. Again, we encourage you to listen to the first part of our interview with Crystal Robinson. Finding Myself, her memoir, is about hope, struggle, and perseverance in the face of adversity. It is a story where Crystal explains her unbreakable belief that obstacles are placed in our path to teach us lessons and to teach us how to reach our full potential in each chapter. Finding Myself is published by Talk and Tell and can be found on Amazon. You can find her on Instagram and Twitter at @CRobber. That's the letter C and Robber, just like it sounds, and then the number 3. Crystal, welcome back to the Sports Deli.
C. Robin House.
Oh, thank you for having me back, Mike. Looking forward to it.
So for those of you that didn't get a chance to listen to the first time Crystal was with us, we encourage you to do so. I talked a lot about some of the things that we were just touching on in that first part of this 2-part series of the podcast about how you want to be proactive and you want to be a part of the solution, and there are things going on in the world, obviously, but
in the heat of the moment when things happen and you're angry and you want to react a certain way. But I think that through all of it that happened to me, getting basically racially profiled and lies released by, like, defamating lies released to the press about me, makes you want to be very, very mad. But I just think that I view everything as an opportunity or a chance. And I really could actually take it because it was definitely racial profiling. But while I was locked up over that one night, just everybody in there was white. And the things that I just talked to them about just basically is the same story. It's poor people who don't have a voice and no one to stand up for them. Had I not been played in the WNBA, I would have a felony on my record that I would not have ever been able to erase, and I would not have had a voice. But I'm so thankful that we were on the phone together, and you guys kind of you didn't insist, but you kept recording, because when cops don't have body cams on and it's their word against your word, they're 9 times out of 10 going to get the benefit of the doubt. But I have the ability to show. When he made his police report and put it in the paper, there's 3 things on that paper that just are flat out fabrications or very stretching the truth greatly. So it's been and still I don't want to blow up and be mad about it and turn it into a big race thing. If I want to do anything about it, I would want to have a voice for poor people and start a talk of like I think it would have been a good place to start for them to realize that something wrong happened and they should have been willing to want to fix it. And I basically extended a olive branch to try to say, look, let's just not take this to court or go that far. You guys just release a statement saying that I didn't do what I was accused of, and that it was, I don't know what you want to call it, how y'all have to pat it, but because the cops didn't do their job, you tried to make me look bad. So anyway, I've gotten a lot further with it, but just to the point still that I'm gonna have to, I will do anything to defend my name. Like it ain't about money
Absolutely.
or those things, but my grandparents have slaved and cleaned houses and worked extremely hard to instill some of the beliefs and for me to be who I am. And I'm just not going to ever be okay with someone trying to steal that from me.
So, just so everyone knows, in the middle of our podcast, you were pulled over for having your bright lights on.
I was downtown, like, which is even not, it was, didn't make sense because it was around Christmas
Right.
and downtown's lit up like brighter than my brights. Really, he
Mhm.
just saw somebody black with
Mhm.
dreads down, with locks down, and pulled me over. But I was stopped, and I didn't have my ID on me, and he asked me if I had an ID with a picture on it, and I said, "Yeah, I have my work ID and my cannabis card." And he says, give me your cannabis card." And
Medical
then in the
ID
paper,
card.
he says
Right.
he noticed that I had a cannabis card, but I offered him my work ID first, and he asked for that card. Um, but to make a long story short, my license was suspended because I went into the bubble and got stopped right before I went to the bubble. You couldn't leave the bubble and come back. So, of course, I planned on taking care of it when I had gotten home. And then I got home and did think about it on several occasions, but just didn't get up and go and do it. So, never, I won't try to make it sound like make a big backstory. I just didn't go do it, like, because I was lazy, basically. And most people don't go to jail for suspended license. But when he stopped me, you heard the conversation. I was okay until he made some kind of comment about he was just upholding the law like I was a criminal. They arrest me, take me to jail, and they never read me my rights. They never pat me down. They never do any of those things. And I just came from a meeting where a cannabis owner offered me a portion of his company to put my name on his products. And I told him I wasn't interested in it. But he gave me two of the products and said, get some people to test them and write reviews. Um,
Mhm.
so I had them in my pocket. Since with what's going on in the world, I'm thinking I've never been arrested before, but I'm thinking, okay, I guess they'll pat me down there. There's no female officers on site, so they'll take me there. I get there, they tell me to take everything out of my pockets. I do that, and they add a felony charge of smuggling THC into a penal institution, which I mean, which all this that's going up on to this time, the arrest, everything is legit. They can arrest anybody they want for suspended license if they want to. Where the problem starts is that they released it to the press, to the AP, and it was ran on TV and it was released to the major newspapers and online. And then I go to court and the DA laughed. I'm like, it was like, we're never going to charge you with that. That's not, I mean, the law is really not even written for that. And then not to mention, I call my lawyer from the back seat of the cop car because he tells me to put both of my phones in my back pocket. And my lawyer tells me to ask them what I'm being charged with. And when I did that, I sent the jailer to go ask the cop to come tell me what I'm being charged with. The jailer comes back and says, I'm not, I'm not even going to tell you what they said, but they're not coming. So I wouldn't sign the sheet of charges because no one would explain it to me. And then I was in the pod once they put me behind bars, actually. A girl comes in and says, hey, they forgot to ask you to sign these charge sheets. Can you sign it? And I said, well, if one of them will come and explain it to me, I will sign it. And she said, well, they're not coming to explain it. And I said, well, I'm not signing. And then in the paper, they say I refused to sign the charge sheet. Like I was just being difficult and said I was being belligerent. And that was not the case. Now, was I smart at it? Absolutely. I was a smart. I treated him exactly like he treated me. I gave him the same energy he gave me. Had he been respectful, I would have been respectful. He started talking to me like I was a nothing. So I actually just started talking to him like I was more educated than him. And I told him things that he didn't want to hear. And he got his feelings hurt. So
So they didn't read you your Miranda rights. They didn't pat you down, and then they claim that you're trying to smuggle something in when if they had patted you down, they would have known that you would have
yeah,
had something in your pocket. You showed it to me. It's so big. There's no way that they couldn't see it. It's sticking out of your
and it
pocket.
sticks out. When it's in your
Right.
pocket, it's big. It sticks out. You can't hide it or anything like that. Like not even like they didn't even I didn't even wasn't even in no jail clothes. Like I would have to be in jail clothes and actually literally try to take that into the pod to be sneaking it in. But I had no intentions of going to jail. I had no intentions of being pulled over. Like, do you really think somebody who's never been to jail and has no intentions of anything like that is going to get pulled over and try to smuggle some drugs into jail? Like, none of it even makes sense. Like, they really just tried to get ahead of the story because they assumed that I was going to go online and start ranting and raving about it. And they were trying to get it ahead of the story to try to make me look like they had right to treat me the way they did. And they really didn't. So,
And I'm
and,
reading
and then
this.
not to
Yeah.
mention this, Mike, that I have not said is that at one point he walks over to me and he says, I'm about to do you a favor, and I never do favors. He was about to let me go. And I looked at him and I said, the only favors that's going to be done around here is if I'll be doing them. And that'll be if I decide not to sue you guys or not. And then I turned back around. That's how I talked to him, but I wasn't belligerent. Um,
Well,
but
that's just another microaggression. That's
yeah,
somebody that's not properly trained. That is part of the issue that we've talked about in this country, especially since George Floyd and Jacob Blake, about police officers not properly being trained on de-escalation. And so, if you understand how to de-escalate a situation better and just do your job, quite frankly.
well,
Uh,
all that situation called for was for him to say, "Hey, man, I might have to just take you to jail. Your license are suspended." And then
well,
they
but
did another falsity. They said my license was suspended for 6 years. Like
okay, but this is the thing,
my
Chris. So
license for
yes, but
20 years, they don't give them the right to do any of the stuff they did.
you're absolutely. And one thing I want to add, in case people aren't aware, is that I don't know if this is relevant or not, but marijuana is legal. Medicinal marijuana is legal in the state of Oklahoma, and has been since 2018. Anyway,
So
back to John Heath, who was also on our podcast. He's been a lobbyist. He works now for the Rock of Companies with Dan Gilbert, and he's an expert on some level on this stuff. And he told me the same thing happened to him when he was with a politician. They pulled him over because of a technicality about a form, about a change of a license, because he didn't fill out a form when he went from one state to another and he moved. And get this, right? So this is the kicker. So he's pulled over for something not only nonviolent, not only minor, where discretion should be used in this case, uh, because it was such a ridiculous finding when he went back to his cop car to see that he just simply didn't fill out a form. He was patted down. They were taken back to the station. The politician, who I'm not going to name, was in the car. Famous politician was in the car. And they used it as a reason to search the politician. And only then later did they find out who he was. Like, for a piece of paper. And these are the types of things that you're talking about. And his point was that in these kinds of situations, when a cop goes back to the car and they look up what's going on, they have discretion. And this cop, more than anything else that you're talking about, did not use proper discretion, because if they had seen what was on your record, there's no way in hell you can tell me that an 80-year-old white woman would have went to jail with the same things on that computer screen that they saw with you. And so
well, he didn't.
that's not the proper use of discretion, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think that he didn't think I was who I said I was, and my cousin actually even came to the scene and tried to give him my driver's license, and he wouldn't take them. And then I had a really rich, prominent family show up to try to talk to him too, and he wouldn't talk to them. But then he tried to make it sound like in the paper that I was just being arrogant, like I'm Crystal Robinson and you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that. But not knowing in the WNBA, we have a protocol and they're training us every single year on if we get stopped or something happens with the law, what to do and how to handle it. Only I didn't have a PBA card because I don't work in the WNBA anymore. They usually give us a PBA card that has the head of the WNBA security who's been in the FBI and all these other big things, right? And you tell them that you would like for someone higher up to contact them. And uh, when they contact them, they basically tell them like, don't release anything to the press until you can prove it, all these other things, because they're basically, saying because if you defamated her character or make us look bad, we're going to sue you. So let's just, and I'm telling you, and if you get found guilty, the WNBA will wash their hands of you and, distance themselves from you. They're not going to try to protect you for the most part.
So did
Um,
they accept that olive branch?
ooh,
You said that you were extending an olive branch for them
oh
to make a
no,
public
no, they did
statement.
not. And most
They
of
did
these
not.
people I went to college with are no. But something that you just said a while ago that I just kind of really want to go rewind back and make it clear. I'm not a police basher. I think this world would be way worse without them. Now, and I don't know why people just don't understand that there are good people and bad people in every job that we do. Like just like there's reporters who don't do things proper way. And then most people who are either racist or there's something like that, if they can find positions of power, then they put themselves in even more powerful positions. So I think you find them there. But I have so many friends in my life that are cops, like from highway patrolmen to just regular beat cops, and some of the joy that I seen them bring to people and just how they've handled me and helped me. I can never ever think that or be against the cops. But I mean, there's good and bad in every situation. I just think more education needs to happen. Like there
Mhm.
are there are situations that it calls for way more than just being an enforcer of the law. When you show up at someone's house and you have to de-escalate and you have to relate and you have to do so many different things, but that's not necessarily the cops' fault. They're not being trained properly for that stuff.
That's
So
right.
how do you blame them? It's the system. But at some point in time, someone has to quit pointing fingers and say, "Hey, how are we gonna fix it?" And that's really what I tried to do with them. Going to court doesn't benefit me at all. I've had a chance to sue the city before when the hospital tore my patella tendon accidentally, and for me to sue that hospital and close it down and deprive as many people in that area of a hospital uh, wasn't even remotely a thing that I wanted to do. So suing somebody is not what I want to do. But when you start talking about my name and me defending that, now I'm gonna defend that with everything in me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because Kayla Alexander was on last week, WNBA player, most recently with the Lynx, and her father is a police officer, which I didn't know going into the interview. And she said, she's been very conflicted and it's been tough, but she's learned a lot from her dad, sitting her and her friends down and explaining things from, a cop's perspective. And it is difficult. And like you said, there are a lot of obviously wonderful cops in this country. And it's probably one of the most difficult jobs in the country right now. We're so glad that you're joining us here in the Sports Deli. I'm Hootie Hoot, and you are listening to an interview with Crystal Robinson, who is joining us again for part 2 of our interview. In part 1, if you haven't listened to it, we encourage you to do so. In the middle of our broadcast, she was pulled over and arrested for something that she did not do. They claim that she brought paraphernalia into jail, and they did not use the discretion that we feel they should have by bringing her to jail when she simply had a suspended license. She will discuss her feelings about Tom Brady, which might surprise you, how proud she is of the women of the WNBA, and you definitely don't want to miss her answers to the very famous Sports Deli podcast Rapid Fire This or That segment of the podcast. Now back to this incredible interview with the amazing former WNBA player and coach, and now author of Finding Myself, a memoir by Crystal Robinson, right here on the Sports Deli. I know I speak on behalf of a lot of people when we tell you that we applaud you for your uh, positive outlook on life despite things like this continuing to happen. And in this case, it happened to you, and not playing the victim role, but like anybody else, just trying to protect your name and channeling things in a way where there's a teachable moment and things that can be learned from these types of situations. And you try to extend an olive branch, which they, to this point, have refused to accept, unfortunately, to swallow their pride and move on, and maybe even have you be a part of a committee to help with things like de-escalation and educating them about some of the differences and some of the better ways to maybe handle situations like this. So let's transition to your memoir. Let's pivot a little bit here and talk about your book and what inspired you to write it, and tell us a little bit about it. So, Finding Myself, a memoir by Crystal Robinson. Love the name. I read the overview of it, and tell everybody about, in that same vein that you were just talking about. You want to be a part of solutions and inspire people, and you have a lot of different things that you're part of, from helping kids to financial education to sex trafficking. There's a lot of things that you really want to leave your legacy with. But so talk about the book.
Oh, well, I mean, I think that now is just the right time. People's like, oh, you wrote a book? Well, I wrote a book a long time ago. I just waited for the right opportunity, in my opinion. And I think that now is the right opportunity
Mhm.
to actually publish it and put it out. The book is basically just about, I want to say, just controlling your own life and choosing to be happy. Like, I think that you miss out on life if you can only be happy when moments are happy. Like, more so than not, we go through a lot of bad things. And I think in those times, you have to search for happiness. And I think the people who learn to search for happiness and they live in that end up being successful, because you get bogged down and you get stuck in positions, I think, when you don't learn to find the happiness in situations. And I think that's just what my book is about. Um, Finding happiness and not making excuses. Like, your life's completely different from mine, but I'm sure, Hoot, that you had your share of problems in some way, shape, form, or fashion that I might not be able to relate to, that makes you exactly who you are today. And until you know people's backstories and a little bit more about them, I have no words to judge or even think that I can speak to their life or who they are, because I don't know what they've been through. And most people are the way they are because of a reason, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, you have a lot of experience, and we don't want to make this an oversimplification, because that's realization oftentimes doesn't come to light until later in life, after you've been through some things, and you have the ability to take a step back. But it wasn't always easy for you. Tell everyone a little bit about some of the things that you've had to deal with, so that they know that they're not alone. Mental health has been at the forefront in the WNBA, the NFL now, in a way that it's never been before. And so, you could go in a lot of different directions, but, tell everyone maybe some of the things that you've been through, so they know that there's someone else out there who's experienced the same thing, and they can make it out of it.
Well, one thing I think, that growing up with two alcoholic parents and basically living in the midst of poverty, but at the time, I didn't even realize I was poor. Like, we had the things we needed. We slaughtered our own animals. We lived off the land. I'm talking, we ate squirrel and fished and those things. That's
Mm,
how we survived.
mm.
So um, that was one of the obstacles that I faced growing up with two alcoholic parents. Early in my life, I started taking responsibility and trying to help with my sisters and brothers. So That was one obstacle, I guess you could say. I went through a long period of time. Just I think early in my life, I knew that I was gay, and trying to accept yourself in the middle of the Bible Belt and not having not one person to even
Mm.
begin to think about talking to and trying to figure that stuff out on your own was very, very difficult. In many moments, like I wanted to die, but the fact that I was a Christian, I would never let myself hurt myself. I just said a lot of prayers like, Lord, please let this be the last day. And I feel like lots of kids go through that. Like, not even, you don't even have to say gay, but just being different. Everybody wants to assimilate and fit in. But I really do think that the people who embrace their differences end up uh, climbing mountains and knocking down hills and overcoming obstacles that lots of people like, well, how did they do that? They were so different. They were so weird. They were this, they were that. But I think once you learn how to really be with yourself, and I think that's one thing that shunning teaches you. Like once you really learn how to be with yourself, like I'm very comfortable with who I am and all those things. So, and I call it taking people's power. People can't gossip about you or make you feel bad if you already own who you are. So I think that's probably something that I learned a little bit later in life, but I was fortunate enough to be tough enough as a young kid to be okay with not having friends if they didn't like me. So that was those are probably two of the major things that I went through. Many more, but those are probably two that I'd say that you know the biggest ones.
And a good friend of mine out here is a coach, Jeff Harper Harris, and his brother was killed in gang violence a long time ago, and he's had a lot of his players killed. And this pandemic has caused a lot of people to not be able to get out there and play every day, something we took for granted. And in a way that basketball sort of saved you, even though you had it, sort of hard in the beginning, right? You transferred. People want to listen to the first episode; they can hear a little bit about that part of your journey. But sports, um, in the traditional sense, is fun and it's great to win and compete and all those things. But even now, what are the most important life lessons you think basketball helped you with, getting into your next set of
I'd
endeavors?
say the number one thing, and my sister has a T-shirt apparel line, and it's called Under God, UNDAGOD, Under God.
Hmm.
And the slogan is faith makes things possible, not easy. And I really do think that we're conditioned. We think, oh, as a Christian or a faithful person, we pray for things, and they say, be specific with your prayer, ask God exactly how you want it. But I do think that there's something that we have to do. Doesn't mean God's just going to say magic, abracadabra, we might have to do some extra things to actually make that miracle come true, to show that we want it. And I think that we just give up too soon when things don't come to us easily. If it was easy to be successful or easy to be great, everybody would do it. You have to have kind of a one track. I almost call it a sickness. LeBron James, all the great people have a one track mind to being great, and they're willing to do things that it takes. Like for 10 years, I didn't see my family that much. Uh, I saw them maybe 2 months spread out in 10 years. But that was a price that I had to pay if I wanted to be great. But very few people can do that. So that I took a road very less traveled, but most people succumb to the things that they want. They can't stick it out for the things that they really need to do in order to be successful.
Well, and it's also a couple other things. One, in the old days, we didn't have as much social media and stimuli, so there wasn't anything else to do. And so the game was taught differently back then. Now, people want to be taught the way that the game has evolved, but you have some old school teachers. So now you have this duality going on, and the stimuli in conjunction with that, it makes it really difficult. And you talk about quitting. I've talked about it with Doug Gottlieb and many other people. Right? You and I, we used to go play street ball for like 3 hours, and if you lost, you had to wait an hour and a half before you got back on the court. So you better be balling, right? And
Yeah.
that doesn't happen anymore. People don't go out and play for 3 hours. They're in clubs. It's all organized.
Well,
Ain't no one going out and getting their ass whipped, talking shit. Getting
everybody takes private
tougher.
lessons.
Private
Everybody
lessons.
lessons. The private lessons has kind of hurt. And then a lot of them, I see some of their workouts, and I'm just looking at it like, wow, like, why are you doing that? That's a negative step. Why would you do that? Like,
Right.
I have such a love-hate relationship with basketball. I love it, but I hate it because I
Yeah.
can't be a fan. When I watch basketball, I always view it from a critique
Mm-hmm.
standpoint. Like, if I watch one
Ooh.
play and I see 5 options, like, all I see is what was wrong. I don't ever see it and be like, "Ooh," so
Yeah.
watching it, I would say I'm not a great fan. Then my nephew is pretty good and he plays, and I
Mm-hmm.
really don't even like to go to his games. I'd rather watch him at home because I think I'm a bad fan.
You and me both. I'm always like, why was that the counter move that you chose? Why?
Mhm. Yeah. So,
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about the WNBA. Speaking of being a fan, so you decided that you didn't want to take an assistant position with the Dallas Wings. You were either going to get the head coaching position, or that was the end of that, at least for the time
yeah,
being.
well, I just saw it like this in a couple of ways. One, in professional sports, people talk about loyalty, and teams always want to use it towards players. Loyalty, loyalty. I've been loyal to them, and I've done a pretty good job at my job. Like I had every girl, and I didn't have no problem with those teams. So I kind of expected to get the job. If I was going to be there, I'd made up my mind previously, way before that interview, that I wasn't going to be an assistant coach. I even told him that I wasn't going to be an assistant coach. So when he asked me to apply for it, I said, Greg, I'm still not going to be an assistant coach. So I think that he thought if he hired VJ and then paid me really well since we played together, that I would stay. He was kind of mad when I quit. Um, but anyway, the way I see it is I have been an inherited assistant twice, which means that a general manager or someone else hired me. The head coach didn't hire me. Most miserable positions that I've ever been in. Me and VJ were teammates for 7 years, played in 3 championships together. And she was the head coach of San Antonio Silver Star. She didn't. We made a pact that we was going to coach together one day. Whoever got a head coaching job first would call the other one. She got a head coaching job. She didn't even return my phone calls when I called her during that time. So when she got this job, I could see this going 2 ways. Either if VJ's unsuccessful, everyone's going to say, well, Crystal didn't get the job, so she sabotaged it. So I feel like the professional thing to do was to get out the way. I resigned because I don't want, if VJ is successful, I'll be her biggest cheerleader. But if she's unsuccessful, I don't ever want to hurt my stock or my reputation by anybody even having the gall to think that I had any negative things to do with that. So I thought it was actually professional of me to remove myself from that position and allow her to have a clean start slate,
Mm.
because it's not easy to take a coaching job when your assistant coach has a way better connection to your players than you do. And they don't know your style or your coaching. Like it's that can be a bad recipe. And I just didn't want to put myself in that position.
Yeah, I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
It's probably not an easy thing to do. Maybe it was to step away. One door closes, another one opens. But how proud were you of the WNBA players and the sorority of sisters as we're on this first day of Women's History Month? And not only did they change the election in the state of Georgia, but they were instrumental in the leadership and the ownership group of the Atlanta Dream, sort of being forced to sell uh, that team. And Renee Montgomery is now involved as a minority owner. And I mean, I just can't tell you. I've said it over and over, and it's never going to get old. What those 180 women did. Forget basketball. I mean, it'll go down in my opinion. I don't follow politics that much, but I followed enough to know that what they did, and you were there. You were a part of this. You were one of the assistant coaches for the Dallas Wings, right at the time of this collective unification and voice that the WNBA players showed the world. And I just think it's remarkable. You should be so proud that you were a part of that. those 180 women, by being silent about the former senator of Georgia and how they caused her political career to end and caused her minority ownership to end, is just it is just an example of strength in numbers, and it is just a beautiful thing for real. I just got to tell you that again. I've said it many times.
Well, I just think that it's just high time, like 20 years ago when, Rebecca Lobo, Cheryl Swoops, they had a core group of players. Tina Thompson was one of them. Um, that the league promoted, the league gave these things, and just your voice wasn't heard like that. Things have just evolved so much, and I'm pretty proud of the girls. And I think that the fact that Sue Bird has gotten older and Diana's pretty outspoken, like they're always going to fight for things I think that they believe is right. And I think that the league is lucky that those two are still actually playing and kicking and leading and actually leaving some kind of uh I don't want legacy's not the word. They're blazing a trail for these young girls to follow and suit with, because when it boils down to it, I was taught how to be a professional by teaspoon. Vicki Johnson, who
Mhm.
taught me a lot as a player, and those things are learned. And if you're not involved in your future and what's going on around you, then you're always going to be on the wrong end, and you're always going to be unhappy with how things turn out. So I am proud of the fact that they're younger, they're more vibrant, and they step up to the plate and they fight for the things that they believe in.
Yeah, and I hope there's expansion. There should be more women's professional
Well, I'm hearing
players.
that Toronto got a team. And I'm hearing also
Mhm.
too that Steph Curry them may be adding a team too.
Yeah,
So
they'll expand. There's no doubt in
yeah.
my mind. But one of the things that you mentioned was Sue Bird, and not only was she instrumental in a lot of things, from a fiscal standpoint, the collective bargaining agreement that improves salaries. A lot of players still going overseas, but at least it's doable now if they just want to stay, in the W and that's it, and not go overseas and tax their bodies that way. But it speaks to the thing that I've been talking about a lot about why the NFL is so reactive compared to the NBA and the WNBA. But this is in large part, as I've said before, a white problem. And when you have someone like Sue Bird that steps up and is such a wonderful um, ally to this movement, to this racial reckoning, it just shows everyone that sports goes so far beyond winning and losing and statistics that in a locker room, despite differences, maybe even politically, culturally, um, things that people have been through or what they believe in, that they can come together for a common cause like this. And the number of white people that have stepped up, especially in the NBA and the WNBA, is just something that is a wonderful example to what the other sports teams and individuals in those professional leagues should really look at, because um, it seems like the players in the WNBA and the NBA are listening just a little bit better, at least publicly, because it's the black and brown community that are the ones living this different set of laws in this country. And we as white people should be listening a lot better than we have in the past. And it seems like we're doing a better job of that now. Obviously, there has to be people of color, right? African Americans and the black and brown community that continue to educate and speak up so that white people understand things better. But black people are going to listen to black people, and white people are going to listen to white people. But in a way that Sue has in so many spaces talked about this in so many different groups, whether it's Clubhouse or publicly on television, and raised awareness with the LGBTQ community. A guy like Tom Brady hasn't, and I'm going to say it as often as I can. how disappointed I am in the NFL and how, in comparison, they haven't done 1/10, in my opinion, from a hiring standpoint to advocating for equality that the WNBA did. I don't care about ratings. I don't care about anything. Obviously, LeBron is a very once in a generational kind of player on and off the basketball court. You know, Magic Johnson, after he had HIV and AIDS, really put a face and a name to HIV and AIDS, and he has done so much for the black and brown community economically. But this is different, you know, when you're advocating against social injustice and systemic racism. What are your thoughts, Crystal, on what I'm talking about?
You know, when it boils down to it, this is where my problem with things come in on both sides of the table. When you say this is America and people supposed to be able to believe and feel how they want, like I won't say like I've always been a Tom Brady fan. Tom Brady is great. His ability to do
Absolutely.
some of the things that he's done uh, is just undeniable. Now,
Agreed.
Tom Brady might not have the same exact ideals and beliefs as me, but if I want him to respect mine, I should respect his. And I just think that on both sides, instead of people trying to be right, find some common ground and respect. Like that's what I don't understand. That's what baffles me about all of it. Like because I know Tom gets killed all the time. Like uh and I'm not here trying to defend him and say, you know, but for me, if that's how he believes and that's his belief, that's his right as an American.
Is it his
He might
belief?
not use he's not using his platform
We want him
the
to.
way most people might want him to use it or
Yeah.
the traditional way. But it's still his platform to use however he wants to use it. That's my point.
Is he really getting killed though? He's not getting killed. He doesn't get killed. He gets a pass. I think if this whole situation was the other way around, that he wouldn't get a pass. But because he's such a great quarterback, he is getting a pass for not speaking out more. I don't care about his political views. I don't care if he voted for Trump. I don't care if he's chums with him, if he golfs with him, if he voted for him. I don't care about that. I care about the fact that this is a non political issue. This is a human rights issue. This is a systemic, racist, an implicit bias, an institutional racist, and marginalization of the black and brown community issue. And I can disagree with people all day long. And I agree that we should listen to both sides. But I will go to my grave believing that this guy, despite his different political views than most of this country, I would say, but as you said, there's still a large portion of this country that believe the things that Tom believes, but he should still come out publicly and advocate for the Black Lives Matter movement and say the things that I'm saying consistently on this show about the two different sets of laws in this country. I just think when you're the face of the league, I just think
That's the league's fault, though. That the league chose to make him the face of the league. They know what kind of all-inclusive league they have. To me, if you are really wanting to enforce it and you show and you believe it, you don't give you if his belief system does not represent everybody in that league, then don't put him in that position. Then let him miss that money. You take the stand for him and don't give him that voice.
yeah,
Do you understand? Like, so
no,
I
I
just
do.
think that when you start pointing fingers, you can just start pointing fingers all around. And for me, I just got, and I think that's probably why I am a real weird sports person, just because I just kind of tell people to mind their own business. Like, not that, Tom Brady is great. Like, what he did was great. Now, and just like a racist, I'll just go to a racist person who hates me. That's their right. As long as their right doesn't harm or infringe on my rights, or you feel like you can hurt me or kill me, that's what America's supposed to be based on. And it's never going to work. That's what it's never going to work. I mean, you have to have some, because there's always going to be someone unhappy, is what I'm saying. So you have a group of people who thinks racism really doesn't exist, and they're all pissed off. And then they're mad at the people who think that we want rights. And then just both people have a set of rights that should be respected, and nobody can respect either. That's all I'm saying. One respecting one rights infringes on the other. So how do you ever solve that problem? That's what I'm saying. Besides to bicker about it all the time.
But yes, and maybe I am bickering, but
I'm not saying you're bickering. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
I'm actually raising a question.
No,
I
it's
want
it's a,
you to,
it's a great question, but when you talk about finding common ground, and it's not just Tom. It's a lot of the white guys in the NFL. It's a lot of the white guys that are owners, and so if you do believe in this stuff, I understand if you believe in Trump and his economic plan. But what I don't understand is you believing that there's inequalities in this country and just saying that publicly because of the power that you don't have to be a political person. The power that will impact the society will be generational. There's nothing I can ever say. Doug Gottlieb will never say it. We had him on this podcast, and he is more sort of in alignment with your argument about that he's Jewish and his grandfather, was poor, and he came from tough upbringings. And look, there's not one person, as Doug Williams said, who when he came on this podcast, that would impact a locker room or a league or a community or a country than someone like Tom. I don't think you can't name one other white person in this country who's in sports that would impact society in a way that Tom would if he said Black Lives Matter and said nothing else. The press conference is over. There's just not one person. And I just think he does a lot of things for Antonio Brown. He does a lot of things for his brothers in the locker room, and he's done a lot of things. But he comes across as white privilege. And I just don't understand why you don't say, hey, look, I don't necessarily agree with this. I'm going to try and step out of my comfort zone and just let everyone know I absolutely believe that there are inequalities in this country, and I'm doing everything I can in my way to change the narrative in this country. I just
yeah.
I just don't,
Yeah, I agree with that, but still, for me, it's just that would it be nice for him to do? Absolutely, but is he obligated to do it? No.
no,
And if it's
of
not
course
his
not.
belief system,
Yeah.
who am I? I'm no better than him to judge him for that. So as long as he's not trying to infringe it on me or anything like that, I'm not gonna waste any of my energy to be mad about it. I guess that's the best way to say it. Like, um, and I think that is one of the toughest things about being a pro athlete. It's like you have to side with something, and just everybody is not LeBron. Like LeBron has, to me, he's a great leader because of his impact. He doesn't just talk about it; he puts his money where his mouth is. Like, and he goes out of his way to make the next man or the next person better. Tom Brady doesn't do any of that, and if he does,
Nope.
you don't read anything about it.
Nope.
So why would I expect or him to go out and do anything else when he doesn't do selfless things? Most of the things he does to uplift himself or to because he's a great like he has a one-track mind about being great and being a champion.
Yeah.
Um, so they're just two different kind of leaders. So what Tom Brady is doing, I expect it. How he carries himself, he tells you that. So to expect anything more of him is almost like torturing yourself. Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
um,
I'm just glad we got guys like JJ Redick and Kyle Korver and
absolutely.
guys who are stepping up, Alex Caruso, other guys that are willing to say, I've been complicit, and it's not enough just to say I'm not a racist, to go above and beyond and fight for anti-racism. So I applaud them as much as anyone else. They won't move the needle like he would.
Yeah,
That's all.
agree.
That's all. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh
Good.
no,
Good.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Um, so do you have any aspirations to get back into coaching? Tell everyone what you're doing now. You're
Right
part of.
now, I'm working on just promoting my book and speaking, speaking
Awesome.
engagement, speaking for several different organizations, Gold Friends, um,
Where do you
also
see yourself in
Steward.
5 years?
Uh, I don't know if I'll ever get back in coaching, and if I do, I won't. I will have to do. I want to do it from a head coach's standpoint. I feel like, especially at a high level, basketball is like 20% of actually being successful at a high level. You have to get people to put themselves second and give up shots and do some things that for me is like a puzzle, and
Mhm.
it's very interesting. But from an assistant coaching standpoint, I have put out enough fires. I've babied, I've coddled, I've made head coaches look good. I've done all that. Like I would just like to shop for myself, and if I don't get that, I probably won't go back into coaching. And I'm not. I would have to do it for, like, if I'm going to go be someone's assistant coach, I'm going to be someone's assistant coach that I'm going to actually learn a ton from. That I don't feel
Totally.
like I'm equal to them. Um, so I have no problem with that, like being Brian Agler's assistant or
Hmm.
Dan Hughes' assistant or those guys. All I did was learn a lot, and that puts you ahead of the curve when you can learn a lot. So
Yeah, it just makes things more fulfilling, right? We've done this a long time, you and I both, right? This is my 29th year, and there's no way I'm going anywhere, college or anywhere else, if I'm not a head coach or I'm not like loving learning every second. Like when
yeah,
my best friend, who's at K State now, right, for Coach Mitty, she was at UCSD first with Heidi, and man, what she learned in 2 years there, like from an X's and O standpoint, was just mind blowing. And
yeah.
obviously Tara's sister, so. All right, let's get to the rapid fire, and then I'll leave the floor for you. And anything else that you want to share with the world? We've been in 17 countries, and in the last week we've doubled our downloads and plays. I don't know why, but it's been an honor to share space with you again and have some great conversations. And let's get after it. Buckle your seatbelt. All right, Amazon or Walmart?
Amazon. Only reason I say Amazon is my sisters like have Amazon addictions, and it's easy for me to get them to order something. They just need to see the Amazon. I can feed their Amazon addiction by asking them to order things from Amazon for me. So
That's wrong. All right. When you put a new roll of toilet paper on, do you put it so that the toilet paper dispenses from underneath or over the top?
like it's really sad, and I'm embarrassed that I even can tell you in real true life answer to this, but I'm that uh
O-
person.
OCD. Yeah.
I like for it to come from the top.
It's just easier, right? Underneath is just
It's
annoying.
just easier, yeah.
Yeah. Do you dry your upper body or lower body off first when you get out of the shower?
Lower body,
Yeah, definitely. Left leg or right?
left.
Dang, twinsies. Let's go. All right. Would you rather snuggle with a zebra or a giraffe?
Probably neither. But if I had to choose, I think I'll snuggle with the zebra just because I think he'll be useful and we could move faster if I have to ride him.
Would you rather be slapped in the face by a fish or farted on?
Oh, neither, but probably slapped in the face by a fish.
We had Shea Hillenbrand on, former baseball player. He said, "Don't hit me, bro. I'll snap." Oh man! And John's sorry he couldn't be here. By the way, I meant to tell you that he's working on his PhD and he's got a project that's due tonight. So just want to let you know. Okay, Blockbuster Video, old school or Netflix?
Oh, Netflix, definitely.
Yeah, you didn't like going into the store and the Blockbuster
Well,
and shit.
now I just who wants to leave? Like everybody's, it's the convenience. The convenience of Netflix will knock Blockbuster out the water.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you were still playing, Euro or floater?
Ooh, Euro.
Yeah, I see you as a Euro kind of person. Would you ever do a Euro? Would you prefer to do a Euro into a pass or a Euro into a shot?
Oh, I'm shooting it. If I'm gonna
Yeah, I
do all of that, I'm gonna get my name
know.
in the paper, man. They're gonna take a picture of it. Like, what are you talking about? I
Oh
like
man. Would you rather create a new holiday or a new language?
A new language.
Mm.
Actually, me and my friend have a language that we have words and sounds that when we're in a room full of people, we just make them to each other, and we know what each other's talking about.
So you played in the WNBA for a number of years. Who are you most excited? You say you're not a huge fan or a great fan, but who are you most excited to watch? Is it Enrique, your former player, or
Honestly, to tell you the truth,
who do you
I'm
love to
excited
watch?
just to watch the game from a fan's perspective. Like all of them, Enrique, Alicia Clark, Jewel Lloyd, all of them. Kayla McBride. Like I'm excited to be able to cheer and taunt and laugh and all of that. But most people know my personality is pretty funny. Like I'm usually giving people a hard time all the time. So I actually was talking to Alicia Clark the other day, and she was like, "It's gonna be so fun with you sitting courtside." Oh my god! So I'm excited about it.
That's hilarious. Maya Moore or Diana Taurasi?
Ooh wee. I'm not even gonna pick between the two of them. Like,
Oh man, come on.
the, okay, this is how I put it. On my list of greats, Diana is my number two. She's the two guard greatest, and Maya's a three.
Mm,
That's how
great.
I'll put that. But I mean,
I know.
they're
Yeah, I know
both
they're different
really
players. But who's your top center?
top center. Ooh, I've seen everybody from Katrina McClain to
Ooh, old
uh,
school.
but I guess it's according to what kind of center. I'm probably going to go and get me a fa- uh, a face up center, like I would say a
Interesting.
Stewie or a Deladon. Like my
Yeah,
player's gonna have that kind of
yeah,
skill
yeah,
set
yeah.
at the five.
Stewie is something. Elena's no slouch either. Let's see. So okay, so Cheryl Swoops or Lisa Leslie with that style.
I guess I'm gonna go with Lisa because I won a Euro Cup championship with Lisa at Spartak Moscow with her and Tamika Catchings and Tisha Pinachero.
Whew, that's a squad.
Yeah, we were
H-
pretty good.
How was it over there? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I loved it. I enjoyed living in Europe and playing there everywhere I played. But we had also had a girl named Linda Froelich that played at UNLV and played with me in New York. That was really, really good. We beat
Mm,
Diana and Sue in the championship.
mm, man,
So
that must have been something. That must have been a sell out.
yeah, it was a good game.
That's cool. Whitney or Beyonce?
Beyonce.
Really? Well, a lot of people have said Whitney. So I mean,
Well, not just Whitney, it's according to what you want. Like
yeah, all right.
Whitney is a singer, Beyonce is a vibe. Like her
That's
whole
true.
aura is a vibe. Like
Yeah.
almost I could turn into Beyonce. I don't even listen to a lot of female singers, but Beyonce is definitely one of them.
So if you were in the car by yourself, what would you be singing? Loud.
Well, if Beyonce comes on, all her songs. I'm gonna be doing the hair flips and all that too.
Oh, I just talked about it on my Instagram post today about American Idol. It never gets old. I don't know if you watch it, but I just can't get enough of those inspirational stories. They've done a great job this year. If you haven't watched it, it's
Yeah,
been phenomenal.
I actually don't watch very much TV.
I don't
Um,
either, but yeah,
I might watch TV once a week if that. Just I got so many other things going on, and like right now with me watching TV, shoot, you don't know what's truth and what's not, so I just stopped watching it. So,
totally.
or
No,
you got
I,
to do
I
a
agree.
lot of research to get to the right answer. So
Yeah,
I don't have
exactly.
time for that. So,
Are you getting the vaccine?
eventually, I mean,
Hmm.
right now they ain't got to my age group or anything, but
Hmm.
more than likely I'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be in terms of
Yeah,
percentages, so that's good. Sir Mix-a-Lot or Beastie Boys?
to mix a lot.
Jay-Z or Run DMC?
Man, Jay Z. I'm a
Of
big
course.
Jay Z fan.
All right.
Not that I don't like Run DMC, but
Way to go out
Jay
on a
Z.
limb. Yeah. Okay. Well, so Jay-Z over Eminem. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite meal?
Uh, fajitas probably.
Oh, interesting. Chicken?
I'm a very simple eater. I eat meat and cheese only on almost everything.
No salads?
No, I don't hardly eat vegetables. Like,
You know how African Americans have a higher incidence of high blood pressure and diabetes, right?
oh yeah, my dad was diabetic. He had 13 sisters and brothers, and 11 of them were diabetic. I'm not diabetic. So
Good. That's
yeah.
good. Keep that blood sugar even, Steven. All right. So funny words. Lollygag or malarkey?
Malarkey. Real
You've seen a
malarkey.
lot of that. All right. Okay. So malarkey or nincompoop?
Malarkey.
All right. Caribbean or Caribbean?
Ooh, it's according to where I'm at and who I'm with.
Right. That's usually what people say.
But probably for the most part, it'd be Caribbean.
Cement or cement?
I'm from Oklahoma. Cement.
It ain't just an
Cement.
Oklahoma thing. I got news for you.
Cement.
Best locker room speech you've ever heard or given?
I wouldn't say locker room speech, but probably one of my favorite speeches is on 300 when King Leonidas is speaking to the 300 about like leaving a legacy and dying a good death. So
Love it.
yeah.
Inside the NBA on TNT, Charles, Shaq, or Kenny?
I would pick Charles, but I don't know if Charles is a big supporter of women's basketball because he's real political, and sometimes I really like to hear his views because he's just straightforward and honest.
Yeah.
But Shaq used to come in our locker room with Richie, and he's like a big kid, and I like Shaq. Shaq has good vibes. He makes other people feel good.
Yeah. How did Kobe's death affect you? Because he was so supportive of the league.
It was, I don't know, like almost just disbelief. Like, just people get to a star level that you almost think they're gonna. Well, it's not that they do live forever because their name lives forever, but Kobe had that air about him anyway. Like that greatness, you knew he was gonna live forever, and so for him just to be gone so abruptly is just devastating. Like almost like he had all this work that he was about to do
Oh,
that he didn't get to do. So
and his daughter
yeah,
didn't get to do. Family Matters or Martin?
Martin,
Chappelle or Kevin Hart?
Kevin Hart,
Well, I already know you're a trash talker, so forget that question. Popcorn or candy while watching a movie?
candy, popcorn. Those kernels get in your teeth. No, thank you. I'll take the candy.
Wait, what candy?
Probably a Twizzler or something like that.
There you go. French toast, waffles, or pancakes?
Waffles.
There you go. Now, if John was here, he would go off about Waffle House, but he's not, so we'll have to table that. Family Feud, Price is Right, or the $25,000 pyramid?
Family Feud with Steve Harvey. With Steve Harvey, though.
Hey, I got to tell you, my 91-year-old grandmother's been here for 6 months from Detroit, and there is not one day that has gone by that we have not watched that show. Man, she freaking loves that show. That guy, his facial expressions, man.
Yeah.
Classic. Ellen or Oprah?
Ellen, definitely.
She had some controversy though, but I think she took care of it, so that's good.
Doesn't Mike? If I live a perfect life, then I'll judge somebody for having some controversy. We all have our problems. Like
you're right.
Anybody, I'm distrustful of anybody who portrays a perfect life.
But she apologized though.
Well, whether she apologizes or not, like we all, and that's a part of our problem as a society. We put people on a pedestal and we expect them to be perfect when they're just humans, just like you and me.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
I know how many mistakes I make, so
yeah, you and me both. Sanford and Son or What's Happening?
Sanford and Son. Yeah.
Jeffersons or Good Times?
The Jeffersons.
Yeah.
George and Wheezy.
Oh man, MJ or LeBron?
Ooh, I'm gonna tell you, had you asked me this 2 years ago, I'd have said MJ, but I'm LeBron. And just the reason is that not that MJ is not the greatest, but LeBron's the way he impacts society and cultures and really fights for things
Hmm,
sets him apart from anybody to me.
yeah, I agree. Not even close from that standpoint. Kyrie or Steve Nash?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with Kyrie.
Hmm, interesting. You think Steve Nash is going to win a ring in Brooklyn?
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Like,
Come on,
hopefully,
they're going to play D in the playoffs, right? Like that's a stupid criticism. Like they're going to play D. No one plays D right now. Who cares?
yeah. Well, that's why I don't. Why I can't even waste my time on the NBA usually till the playoffs. But
Exactly.
I don't know. I never underestimate the heart of a champion. Steve's a champion, and I know he's a preparer, and he worked his butt off as a player. He
Hmm.
works like that as a coach. I mean, I don't see why he won't have success, but it's not that easy. X's and
Yeah.
O's is not what wins at the high level. It's how they work together, how they sacrifice for each other.
Yeah.
Who's gonna do dive on the floor? Like it's all the intangibles
Yeah.
you have to be able to convince them to do. So to me, at a high level, as good as the players are, X's and O's is but a small part of it.
Yeah, I agree. The Clippers were not clicking last year. That's a perfect example. I heard a
Yeah.
story about Steve that not besides he's got big hands, that he consistently throughout his career he could get on a treadmill and he could go to the highest speed for an hour straight. Like his conditioning was sick, like off the charts. Like he would never
He
get
gave me a
tired.
headache watching him play. Like you could just see him thinking the whole time. Like he just
Oh,
outthought people.
he was
But
amazing.
yeah,
Hammer or pliers?
I mean, what am I doing?
I mean,
Hammer, I guess.
hammer time. Comfortable pillow or a comfortable blanket?
Comfortable blanket.
There you go. Nickelodeon or Disney?
Ooh, wee. Nickelodeon.
Rugrats or Ren and Stimpy?
Rugrats.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Enrique or Skylar Diggins? Smith.
Both of them
Oh
together.
shit.
I mean, it's according to what I was looking for, man. Skylar is unbelievably. They're both great players, dude.
Yeah.
Um, Skylar is her IQ and her experience, like it's according to youngest Skylar. To me, you can't compare the Skylar now with the Enrique now, the 2 year.
Mm,
Skylar's
yeah.
gained so much knowledge in the years of the league that Enrique just hasn't gained yet. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I would pick between the two of them, but they're both pretty dang good.
What did you tell Enrique in terms of how she can maximize her potential?
Um, One, I told her she has to trust her teammates more and stop taking bad shots and kick those shots out. I mean,
Yeah.
eventually you'll get surrounded by the right people that'll make those shots. You got to show people that you know that those are there. Um, and the other thing I told her is that she has to stop being a volume scorer. Like people, she's always going to catch flack. And just quite frankly, uh, I told her this. It wasn't until Kobe learned to really use his teammates that he became great. He used to be you, shooting 30 times a game,
Or MJ
bad.
for that
I
matter.
don't say bad attitude, but that was the only way he knew to be
Mm,
great.
yeah.
And then when he figured it out, he exponentially multiplied his ability to be great because he now not only that he don't know how to score to be great, he can pass and be great. There's so many things that he can do. I've talked to Ricky about those kind of things. Like
That's good
great
advice.
players have great IQs, great players are students of the games, great players eliminate mistakes. They don't just let things happen to them by chance. Every shot that Kobe's hit, he's probably practiced that shot a million times.
Yeah, totally.
So
Great advice. Witches or wizards? Couple more.
Wizards.
Gino or Pat?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I feel about the same way about them as I do Enrique them. Um, they're both great. I think that if you play for one of them, that you can't go wrong. You're going to learn the lessons that you need to learn. I don't know
What
if
do you
I'm
think
going to
about?
agree with you.
Yeah. What do you think about Paige Becker?
She's awesome. Like,
Man,
listen to her play. That's just one of the few people that I'm actually watching play right now. She's good,
she's
really,
she's
really
she's
good.
getting better.
Like, I mean,
She's getting
it's
better.
crazy. It's going to be interesting when she gets to the league because there's some players that come to the league and they impact it right away. I think she's gonna beyond impact it like Maya them did. Like she got that ability. So
You think she'll make $1 million a year? First player to ever make $1 million
who knows?
in the W? Yeah. All
Not
right.
if they're on
Last
the
couple. Zen Master or Belichick?
I just I just familiar with Belichick so for so long. Like I'll just take him. Like neither
Wow.
one of them really, but I'd probably just take him just because I have way more familiarity with him. So
Food in Otoka, Oklahoma, Washington, D.C., New York, Dallas, or Moscow?
I would say New York because I could pick whatever I wanted from
That's a
any
good point.
culture, like anything from Nigeria to shoot Poland.
So if you had a position open, you got to know John a little bit in the last podcast. If you had a position open, say you got back into coaching, you're a head coach as a either a player development or behind the scenes, would you hire John or me?
Well, I only met John for like a few minutes and he didn't talk that much, but I feel like you and I have a really good synergy. So I feel like I like people who just will tell you the truth. Like I'm not saying John won't, but I got
Yeah.
a feeling you're the kind of person that I'm not offended by that either. Like I expect my assistant coaches to tell me things that I might not be looking at or not want to hear. That don't mean I'm going to do it, and I'm not
Mhm.
being offensive to you,
Yep.
but you give me a completely different perspective, and I like that. I feel like that you're that person that you would really just be honest, and I think lots of assistant coaches just get caught up in wanting to be the favorite or that kind of stuff. But I really appreciate people who I might not do what you say, but you put it on the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah,
Because
for
to me,
sure.
that's what an assistant coach's job is.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
I agree. All right. Well, what else? Congratulations on the book, and looking forward to reading it from cover to cover. I know it's going to be an amazing read, and I've gotten to know you recently. Love you, and I applaud you for the way that you approach life and have used and channeled your difficult circumstances in the past into something positive to pay it forward. And your story is an amazing one.
well, thank you. Just I know the book comes out Wednesday. I think you can buy it in pre-sales. Just I hope people enjoy it and that if it helps you a little bit or makes you laugh a little bit or you read something in there that you can relate to, then that's the reason that I wrote that book.
Yeah. Anything you want to share with everyone before I let you go about being economically intelligent or your efforts with sex trafficking? Anything people can do with regards to those two things?
Well, I actually I started working with a certain individual in the sex trafficking industry. She was sex trafficked for 25 years and she's a
Oh,
millionaire.
wow.
Anyway, and we're working on some things that we're going to announce. But
You said she's a millionaire?
oh yeah,
Wow.
business lady. She's just her life is amazing, and she's just if you heard her story,
Oh,
it's almost heartbreaking.
oh,
But it's very heartbreaking. But she really, my story isn't anything compared to hers, and that's something I think that
wow.
we get caught up in our stories and the hurt of it at the time. But
Mm,
man, her story makes my story look like I had a cakewalk life.
mm,
So that's to me, that's why you have to appreciate whatever you have because there's lots of people that have a lot worse.
mhm.
But then there's also um, Code Red is a foundation that it's an anti-bullying foundation, and they just finished up a documentary which me and Enrique are both going to be in, and sold it to Netflix about the Highland Park shooting.
Mm.
And it's going to be it's really good. I've seen the reels, and you know, just really big into that and teaching kids to find their voices. And I think once you find your own voice, you're less apt to
Mm.
want to mute someone else's or pick on someone else's when you're real secure with yourself. So those are probably the two biggest things that I'm involved in now.
Well, on this first day of Women's History Month, the first Women's History Month after the racial reckoning last summer, we couldn't be more honored to have you as our first guest during this month. And anything we can do, anything I can do personally, that, let us know. And much love and the utmost respect for your journey and continued success.
Thanks, Hoot.
All
Well,
right.
thanks for having me, man. Have a
Yeah.
great evening.
All right. You too.
All right. Bye.
This has been the Sports Deli special edition for Women's History Month. We were joined by Crystal Robinson right here in the Sports Deli, whose new book, Finding Myself, a Memoir by Crystal Robinson, hits the shelves tomorrow. You can pre-order on Amazon. Don't forget, you can send us an email to thesportsdeli@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram @Mike Hootner or on Twitter @Michael Hootner. Remember, your voice matters when fighting systemic racism. Read a book, acknowledge your white privilege, watch a movie about institutional racism, call your local or state representatives, and have a conversation with someone that doesn't look like you so that we can change the economic, educational, police, prison narratives that currently need to be changed in this country. And speak out to your local and state representatives about any injustice that you feel is happening right now, especially people that are disproportionately incarcerated for non-violent crimes here in the United States, especially those related to marijuana. Until next time, please mask up and remember, Black Lives Matter. Peace.